If you're interested in the true history of America, subscribe and let's figure it out together.
Dawn breaks over Mississippi River on April 12, 1864. Confederate cavalry approaches Fort Pillow, Tennessee. Inside, Union soldiers half white, half black, prepare for routine patrol duty. None suspect this day will ignite America's darkest wartime controversy. History's machinery grinds forward. Nathan Bedford Forrest commands 1,500 Southern raiders. Before war, he traded enslaved people for profit in Memphis markets. Now he faces former slaves wearing Union blue. For Forrest, this isn't merely military combat. This represents existential threat to his world order. I'm Major Lionel Booth. Earthworks and river gunboats guarantee my safety, or so I believed at sunrise. 600 defenders hold strong position on these Mississippi bluffs. Confidence fills morning air. By sunset, I'll lie dead. Half my men will join me in crimson mud. Forrest's sharpshooters infiltrate ravines surrounding the fort at sunrise. Confederate bullets find Major Booth within hours. Command passes to Major William Bradford, a lawyer-turned-soldier from Tennessee. The garrison's experienced leader vanishes before battle truly begins. Chaos seeds itself through unexpected death. You're Bradford now. Hold position until reinforcements arrive, or surrender immediately? Your garrison includes Tennessee Unionists and former slaves of 6th United States Colored Heavy Artillery. Surrender means uncertain fate. Resistance promises bloodshed. Which choice saves more lives? Minutes compress into crushing weight. Forrest's men tighten encirclement like noose. They occupy buildings surrounding fort walls. Union soldiers cannot raise heads without drawing fire. Every water barrel becomes precious. Wounded men cry for help nobody dares reach. The sun climbs higher. Thirst joins fear as enemy. Afternoon arrives. Forrest sends truce flag forward under Tennessee Sunday. His message sounds civilized. Surrender now. Receive treatment as prisoners of war. Resist. Responsibility for consequences falls upon Bradford's shoulders. Words promise mercy that bullets won't deliver. The ultimatum masks coming horror. Bradford stalls, watching Mississippi waters for rescue steamboats that never appear. He requests 1 hour for consideration. Forrest grants 20 minutes. Time drains away like water through cupped hands. The decision crystallizes into terrible clarity. Surrender or die fighting. Neither choice offers salvation. White flag rises above Fort Pillow at 4 o'clock. Bradford orders weapons grounded. Soldiers step from behind earthworks, arms raised high toward Tennessee sky. They expect prisoner exchange, eventual release, survival. Instead, they walk into history's darkest testimony. Shooting begins before surrender completes. Confederate forces swarm over walls. Witnesses later describe indiscriminate slaughter replacing military discipline. Soldiers begging mercy receive bullets instead. Men attempting surrender fall dead. The distinction between combat and execution blurs, then vanishes entirely. Rules of war dissolve into bloodlust and vengeance. I'm a black soldier in 6th Colored Heavy Artillery. Forrest's men don't treat us as prisoners but as rebellious property. Some comrades are buried alive in Tennessee earth. Others die nailed to wooden boards, burned slowly. Cruelty transcends battlefield necessity. This becomes demonstration written in blood. Sergeant Benjamin Robinson survives by feigning death beneath corpses. Blood soaks his uniform, not his own. He hears comrades screaming, begging, praying to God and mothers. Hours pass before Confederates leave. He emerges into nightmare landscape of scattered bodies. Memory will haunt remaining decades. Private Daniel Tyler watches Confederates execute wounded men in makeshift hospital. Doctors pleading for patients' lives receive bullets too. The injured burn inside buildings set aflame intentionally. Their screams carry across water to Union gunboat, crews watching helplessly offshore. Smoke rises like funeral pyre. Some Union soldiers escape by tumbling down bluffs toward river. Confederates shoot them in water like sporting targets at county fair. Bodies float downstream past Memphis docks. Current carries evidence of atrocity toward witnesses who will demand answers. Mississippi becomes flowing graveyard today. Lieutenant Mac Leeming hides under riverbank until darkness. He later testifies that Confederates killed wounded men, escaping men, men standing with hands raised high toward heaven. The word battle fails to describe what occurred here. New vocabulary becomes necessary for understanding this day's evil. By nightfall, approximately 300 Union soldiers lie dead across Tennessee hillside. Confederate casualties number fewer than 20. Mathematical disproportion tells its own story beyond military reports. This wasn't combat engagement. Numbers don't lie, though men will dispute their meaning for generations ahead. News reaches Washington within days by telegraph wire. President Lincoln receives reports describing massacre of surrendered troops. His cabinet demands response. Secretary Stanton orders investigation. Congress convenes hearings. The question transcends military tactics. Can civilized warfare survive racial hatred's transformative fury? Northern newspapers publish survivor testimonies in bold print. Headlines scream, "Massacre" and "Atrocity" across front pages. Public outrage ignites. Forrest becomes symbol of Southern barbarism. Recruitment for colored regiments surges. Young black men enlist, determined that Fort Pillow's dead won't die unavenged. Confederate accounts tell different story entirely. Forrest claims Union soldiers continued fighting after surrender. He describes armed resistance, justifying continued fire against legitimate military targets. Southern newspapers defend his actions as warfare. Two narratives emerge, irreconcilable. Truth becomes casualty alongside Fort Pillow's dead. You're reading Congressional Committee testimony through spring.
Support the channel by subscribing. It helps us create new stories about the real America for you.
100 pages document killings, burnings, brutality beyond military necessity. Survivors describe horror in careful detail. The report concludes, massacre occurred. Political division ensures no justice, follows investigation. Documentation substitutes for accountability and prosecution. General Sherman reads reports with cold fury building. He writes orders. If our men have been murdered after capture, retaliation must be our rule. The cycle threatens escalation into total war without quarter, without mercy, without limits on violence. Vengeance beckons like abyss. I'm Lincoln, facing agonizing choice. Retaliate by executing Confederate prisoners? That betrays Union principles we're fighting to preserve. Do nothing? That abandons black soldiers to unprotected fate. I delay decision, hoping war's end arrives before choice becomes necessary. Some dilemmas offer no path. Fort Pillow transforms military policy permanently. Union commanders issue standing orders. Protect colored troops at all costs, regardless of tactical disadvantage. Any unit with black soldiers receives reinforcement priority. The massacre proves what abolitionists warned. Confederate defeat must be total, unconditional, absolutely complete. Black Union soldiers adopt new battle cry, echoing across future battlefields. Remember Fort Pillow. They fight with ferocity, born from understanding what capture means for them. At Battles Ahead, Bryce's Crossroads, Nashville, Petersburg, they take fewer prisoners voluntarily. Mercy becomes luxury their enemies denied first. Forrest never expresses regret or acknowledges wrongdoing. He claims military necessity justified everything that day. After war, he becomes first Grand Wizard of Ku Klux Klan. The connection between Fort Pillow and later terrorism seems obvious now. Violence against black Americans, transformed, never ended. I'm a survivor, carrying physical and psychological scars lifelong. Nightmares plague my sleep decades later. I startle at sudden sounds like gunfire. Some comrades never speak of that April day again. Others testify repeatedly, desperate that memory survives us. Words become our only weapon now. Historians debate Fort Pillow endlessly in academic journals. Was it premeditated massacre or combat chaos spiraling beyond control? Did Forrest order killings or lose control of troops? Sources conflict deliberately. Perhaps certainty matters less than acknowledgement. Something terrible happened that transcended normal warfare's accepted brutality. The massacre influences post-war justice debates significantly. Should Confederate leaders face war crimes trials? Fort Pillow becomes Exhibit A in prosecution arguments nationwide. Yet reconciliation politics prevail over accountability demands. Forrest dies peacefully decades later, never answering for April 12th. Justice delayed becomes justice denied completely. Memory of Fort Pillow shapes Reconstruction policy directly. Radical Republicans cite it justifying harsh treatment of former Confederacy. If South committed atrocities during war, can they govern fairly during peace? The massacre becomes argument for federal military occupation protecting freed people from violence. Southern Lost Cause mythology erases Fort Pillow from narrative. Monuments honor Forrest as brilliant cavalry commander exclusively. Streets bear his name proudly. Statues rise in town squares. The massacre vanishes from official memory, mentioned only by critics dismissed as biased. Selective amnesia becomes cultural strategy. You're visiting Black communities across South. Fort Pillow never disappeared from our oral tradition. Stories pass through generations like sacred text. It joins list of atrocities Colfax, Wilmington, Tulsa, demonstrating that racial violence didn't end with slavery's abolition. The pattern repeats. History teaches those willing. Modern archaeologists excavate Fort Pillow site carefully. They find bullets, bones, artifacts, confirming testimony accuracy precisely. Science validates what survivors reported under oath. Physical evidence emerges from earth, like truth rising from grave intentionally. The dead speak through fragments and forensics today. I'm a park ranger now interpreting Fort Pillow as massacre site. Exhibits present survivor testimony alongside Confederate denials equally. Visitors walk bluffs where men died, begging mercy unsuccessfully. The landscape remembers what official history tried forgetting completely. Tourism becomes memorial, education, reckoning process. April 12, 1864, reveals war's capacity for descending into savagery quickly. Rules meant restraining violence collapse under racial hatred's pressure instantly. Fort Pillow demonstrates that civilization remains thin veneer over brutality always. Understanding this teaches vigilance against hatred's resurgence everywhere. The massacre's central question haunts generations. How do soldiers distinguish between enemy combatants and surrendered prisoners when racial prejudice blinds judgment completely? When humanity itself becomes contested based on skin color alone? Fort Pillow exposes ideology's power for transforming men into murderers. Some historians minimize Fort Pillow, calling it overblown propaganda designed for northern consumption. They emphasize fog of war, confusion, combat chaos naturally. But survivor accounts show remarkable consistency across dozens of witnesses independently. Dismissing testimony requires believing mass conspiracy or delusion. Evidence demands acknowledgement. Fort Pillow influenced international law development significantly. Delegates at Geneva Conventions decades later referenced Civil War atrocities when drafting prisoner protections. American bloodshed helped establish rules preventing repetition. Tragedy becomes catalyst for progress, though progress comes too late for Tennessee's dead. The site became Tennessee State Historic Park in 1971. Interpretive Center opened in 1995. Making massacre public memory represents victory over erasure. Truth preserved serves as warning and memorial simultaneously. Those who died unnamed now receive acknowledgement publicly. Educational curricula increasingly include Fort Pillow in lesson plans. Students learn complexities, that Union employed Black soldiers, that Confederacy refused recognizing them as legitimate combatants, that ideological conflict produced massacre. Teaching difficult history builds informed citizenship. Knowledge prevents repetition potentially. You must understand, Fort Pillow wasn't merely political disagreement escalating. Slavery's defense required dehumanizing Black Americans so completely that murdering them seemed justified, even righteous. The massacre wasn't aberration it represented. Slavery's logic extended into warfare naturally. Context illuminates everything about America. Modern debates about Confederate monuments often reference Fort Pillow directly. Should communities honor Forrest with statues knowing his role in massacre and Klan leadership? Memory becomes contested terrain in public squares. Decisions about public commemoration determine which values society endorses explicitly. I'm a descendant visiting Fort Pillow today. I lay flowers, read ancestor's name, honor great-grandfather denied proper burial here. These pilgrimages connect past to present, personal to historical continuously. Memory maintained by families ensures massacre never vanishes completely from consciousness. Love outlasts hatred ultimately. Military historians analyze Fort Pillow tactically in war colleges. They note Forrest's strategic brilliance elsewhere contrasted against this brutal action sharply. Great military skill doesn't excuse moral failure ever. Competence without ethics produces monsters repeatedly. Fort Pillow teaches that how we fight matters equally. The massacre influenced African American military service debates for decades afterward. Critics cited Fort Pillow, arguing that arming black soldiers invited reprisal inevitably. Supporters countered that self-defense justified risks. The debate revealed tensions between safety and equality, protection and empowerment, persisting today. Fort Pillow survivors, who lived into 20th century, gave interviews. Their elderly voices, recorded on primitive equipment, describe horrors witnessed as young men vividly. Technology preserves testimony that written records cannot fully capture emotionally. Emotion, trauma, memory, all transmitted through trembling voices across time. Psychological research examines how atrocities occur systematically. Fort Pillow provides case study, dehumanizing propaganda, leadership sanctioning violence, group dynamics overwhelming individual conscience. Understanding mechanisms doesn't excuse actions, but illuminates how ordinary men commit extraordinary evil. Knowledge enables prevention hopefully. The massacre affected Union military strategy immediately. Commanders became more cautious deploying black troops near Forrest's command area. This tactical adjustment acknowledged brutal reality. Some Confederate forces wouldn't honor civilized warfare rules. Adaptation to enemy's barbarism represented pragmatism, though it conceded moral high ground. Religious communities debated Fort Pillow's theological implications passionately. How could Christians commit such atrocities against fellow humans? Southern ministers claimed righteous warfare against abolition. Northern preachers denounced massacre as sin. Religious divisions mirrored political ones completely. Even God became contested ground in America. I'm a journalist who documented Fort Pillow facing credibility challenges. Confederate sympathizers accuse me of exaggeration, propaganda, lies designed for political purposes. Truth-telling becomes dangerous profession overnight. I risk reputation defending testimony from soldiers deemed unreliable witnesses because of race. Journalism requires courage always. The massacre created rifts among Confederates themselves. Some officers privately criticized Forrest's actions as dishonorable conduct. Others celebrated them as necessary severity against racial insurrection. These internal debates reveal that Southern opinion wasn't monolithic. Even within Confederacy, voices questioned whether victory justified any method. Union veterans organizations preserved Fort Pillow memory through reunions, speeches, publications consistently. They ensured younger generations learned what happened here. This grassroots memory work countered official narratives, minimizing massacre intentionally. Communities, not governments, maintained truth when institutions failed morally. Artists depicted Fort Pillow in paintings and engravings widely distributed. These images circulated widely, shaping public perception powerfully. Visual media proved powerful propaganda tool. Northern illustrators emphasized brutality graphically. Southern artists portrayed justified combat defensively. Art became weapon in memory wars. Fort Pillow influenced post-war reconciliation challenges profoundly. How could North and South reunite when such atrocities occurred? Could veterans shake hands across graves of murdered prisoners? Reconciliation required amnesia, forgetting, minimizing deliberately. Memory and reunion existed in tension permanently. The massacre demonstrated slavery's corrupting influence on military culture completely. When human property defines society fundamentally, violence against those deemed property escalates unchecked naturally. Fort Pillow revealed slavery's incompatibility with civilized warfare. System built on brutality produces brutal defenders inevitably. You're in modern military ethics training referencing Fort Pillow. It illustrates how dehumanizing enemy enables atrocity. Soldiers learn that seeing opponents as fully human, even during combat, maintains civilization's boundaries. Historical examples teach contemporary lessons. The past warns the present. Will we listen? Fort Pillow affected Northern civilian support for war dramatically. Middle-class families reading massacre accounts became more determined to fight until Confederacy's unconditional surrender. Atrocity hardened resolve. Southern brutality ironically strengthened Union commitment to total victory. Violence backfired strategically. The massacre influenced Abraham Lincoln's evolving views on post-war justice significantly. Initially favoring lenient reconciliation, Fort Pillow reports pushed him toward harsher accountability. Though assassination prevented seeing plans through, the trajectory showed atrocities affecting presidential thinking. Even Lincoln changed under pressure. I'm an archaeologist finding evidence suggesting victims were executed on their knees, shot from behind at close range. Physical evidence confirms testimony's accuracy scientifically. Science removes doubt from historical record. The ground itself testifies to what witnesses reported. Truth emerges from earth and bone. Fort Pillow reminds you that documenting atrocity matters profoundly for future generations. Congressional investigation preserved testimony that would otherwise vanish completely. Written records outlast living memory always. Documentation becomes historical bedrock, evidence future generations need desperately. Truth requires active preservation against erasure. The massacre illustrates how racial ideology transforms military conflict into exterminationist violence. When enemies aren't considered fully human, normal restraints vanish instantly. Fort Pillow warns against dehumanization's deadly logic. Maintaining others' humanity preserves our own ultimately. Empathy becomes survival strategy. You're standing on Fort Pillow bluffs today looking toward Mississippi River. Imagine that April afternoon. Smoke, screams, blood-soaked earth beneath your feet. History happened in physical spaces we can still touch. Sites become portals connecting present to past. Walk here. Feel history. Fort Pillow entered African American collective memory as part of longer struggle. From slave rebellions through civil rights movement, the massacre represents one chapter in continuous resistance against racial violence. Understanding connections across time reveals patterns, continuities, unfinished business. The struggle continues. The massacre proved that emancipation required military force absolutely. Slavery wouldn't end through negotiation with those who'd murder surrendered soldiers rather than recognize their humanity. Fort Pillow demonstrated abolition's necessity and justified its method. Total military victory. Compromise died here. I'm asking you directly, does it matter whether Forrest ordered massacre or lost control? Perhaps the distinction matters less than outcome. Hundreds died after surrender under his command. Leadership responsibility exists regardless of direct orders. Command includes accountability for subordinates' actions always. April 12, 1864, remains scar on American memory. Stand here at Fort Pillow. Feel Tennessee wind. Remember that racial hatred can overwhelm civilization's restraints, that ideological conflict enables atrocity, that documenting truth preserves justice's possibility. The dead demand remembrance. Honor them through honest reckoning.
If you're curious to find out what happened next, subscribe. The sequel is coming soon.